Hey guys, welcome to a series I'm probably going to call Playing Competitive and Talking About It. So, as the title would suggest, I'm just going to be playing some competitive Geoguessr, and I will be going over my guesses, talking about where I went and why, and hopefully you can learn something from it. So, please enjoy. All right, so for our first match, here up against Lions Den Fan 1, we start off with some Chile, as evidenced by the all white road lines, and I was just looking for some info. And then to the south, I noticed that there's some kind of land that juts out into the sea to the west. So I thought that might be this kind of area to the north of Antofagasta that really juts out pretty sharply into the sea, and it was. So we got a really good guess right off the bat. Next up, we have a round on Switzerland. It's locam and architecture. I was looking at the angle of this valley, which looks to be east-west, and it's kind of the land is sloping down as it goes to the east. So I was looking for something. Grindelwald didn't really line up. So yeah, I just kind of clicked middle. He sent quickly, so I figured it wasn't really worth scanning for. All right, next up is around, I thought it was Portugal initially, but I looked at this sign and it was Spanish. So I figured I would guess near southern Portugal anyways, even if I was guessing in Spain, as it did kind of look like that architecturally. So I started off in Huelva, but it didn't really look like it was too much of a commit. So I switched to Seville, and yeah, that ended up just being a really good region guess there. Next up is this Arge, and I really don't have a lot to say about this one, so I kind of cut the clip short. It just looked like Buenos Aires, and yeah, so just a region guess there, where I was kind of hedging the rest of the country, but also going for Buenos Aires. Next up, we had this Japan with some really interesting architecture, so I immediately zoomed in towards it, just seeing if I could find anything out about it, but there wasn't really much. So yeah, just looking around, and eventually saw the sign. There's the info, and it says Hakodate Stay. I guess Hakodate Station. And yeah, Hakodate is just a big city in northern Japan on Hokkaido. Yeah, next up is this Netherlands round. I saw that to the north we can see the Friesland flag there. So I didn't actually know where Friesen was, so I was just kind of looking around in the middle. Um, but Friesen actually is in the north of the Netherlands. So I guess, hedge just kind of ends up working out. But yeah, it makes sense because that's where I guess the Frisian languages are from. They're from northern Netherlands, so Frisian, Friesland. I guess you can see the association there, but yeah. Next up, we have a Spain, as evidenced by the guardrail reflectors and the stop sign, which you can see to the south. As for a region guess, I didn't have much here, but those tree plantations that you can see to the south are pretty common just in southern Spain generally. So I just kind of hedged middle southern Spain, and so does my teammate, or does my opponent, and yeah, solid round. Next up is a round in UK. We have the driving side with no EU plates. I'm driving on the left, and it says cottages there, which are it's kind of a term more associated with the south of UK, kind of cottage holloway getaways. And there is a sign that says Cornwall, which kind of confirms my suspicions. And then Cornwall is this region in the south of UK, so I just kind of clicked in the middle and ended up being really close. So great, but lucky guess there. Next is this loke in the Philippines, which there's some stuff I missed, which I'm happy to share. So on that sign, it says Albay, which is this state in the Philippines. Then I zoomed north and I saw this massive volcano, which Albay is coincidentally famous for. When you Google, it's like the first thing that comes up. But I didn't really know that, so I just hedged middle. And yeah, it's a good thing to know. Next up is this Europe, and the first thing I noticed about this was there's an antenna on the flag on the antenna, which I'll zoom in a bit more thoroughly in a sec, right there. That is found in Romania, Hungary, Bulgaria, and Czechia, to my knowledge. There are other antennas with flags throughout Europe, but this is probably the best one to know. Um, but yeah, I ended up kind of hedging the middle of all of these, and it was Romania. Pretty good guess and a good region guess by my opponent, and taking me down some serious health. Next up is going to be a loc in a Spanish-speaking country. We have all this Spanish signage here. That one in particular is saying something de Ruiz. After looking around a little, uh, seeing the yellow plates, it looks like it's going to be Colombia, and it looks like we're on some sort of high altitude mountain road. That sign says 50, so I'm thinking we're probably on the Highway 50. So got to scanning for that, and I found it outside of Bogota. Didn't really look high altitude enough though, which is kind of a hard thing to tell from the map. But yeah, I ended up getting pretty close, and if you can see that, that's the Nevado del Ruiz, which that sign at the beginning was indicating. So that could have been a 5K, but nonetheless, that was a great game. So GG's to Jake Lyons fan. Next up for our next match is we're up against Saju, who's a very strong player in the wild card running. So best of luck to him. And yeah, for our first round, it's Uruguay, and not really much region guessing to be had on Uruguay, except this round it did look a lot like the 30 to me, which is this kind of rainy, mountainy road up north in Uruguay. So I thought it kind of looked like that. But yeah, wasn't exactly that, but maybe the vibes were right because I got pretty close and it was a solid round one. Next up is a Mongolia Gen 4, which is evidenced by that car, and at the moment it's really found pretty much only around Ulaanbaatar. If you're watching this video, maybe like 3-ish months or so from now, I know they're driving cars around in Mongolia, so it might be elsewhere. But yeah, pretty simple guess. Just send Ulan. This next round is going to be somewhere in the Israel-Palestine area. We have the like Israel-Palestine car and also the yellow plate. And yeah, it just looks rocky. Kind of looks like coverage you'd find around Jerusalem. Just that really rocky landscape. So that's where I sent, and Saju does too. So we just trade 10 points. This next round is going to be in the Netherlands. We have architecture and just those yellow plates everywhere. And we have another state flag in the Netherlands, the second in 2 games, which is kind of crazy. I don't really know what that state flag is, so I'm going to look it up and put it in editor. But yeah, we just set middle, and yeah, pretty standard round. Next up, we have a Trump and Pence lawn poster. So safe to say we're going to be in the US. Unfortunately, it's winter coverage, which means everything basically in all of the East looks the same. So it's really hard to get some of the usual clues you can get from like trees and stuff, as all the leaves have fallen. But yeah, I figured we're on a perfectly east-west road, so we might be more towards the Great Plains. But it ends up being Michigan, and Saju has a much stronger vibe guess than me, and we're going to lose some solid points there. Next up is a Brazil, but it's not a very obvious Brazil. I had to check out the polls to make sure. If you don't know what a Brazil poll is, just go play a balanced Brazil for like 5 minutes and you'll figure it out. But yeah, it's a very deserty climate, so thinking somewhere in the hinterlands. And yeah, I just clicked on a road that makes sense, and it ended up being that road, so some solid points there. Staying in South America, we have another Argentina. Not much to say here other than that the shrubs kind of on the side of the road, there aren't very many of them, and they're pretty small. And the smaller and fewer of them, the more south it's going to be generally, just because there's less plant life the further you go from the equator. Next up, this was a UK Ireland toss up for me. I really can't attribute that to anything other than landscape and the vibe of the pools. I will look into whether that pull top scene there is exclusive to one or the other. But yeah, I thought Ireland, but then I was like, nah, it's kind of flat. Flatness is more UK, so we sent UK. Next up, we have in Italy. We have Italian plates and also Italian language on that truck. As you can see, we have Coast West and, the beach. It's like a resort town, so it's going to be somewhere that is kind of touristy. So I was thinking maybe it was the bottom of the boot down by Gallipoli. That was one option, and the other option was over by the coast by Rome. But I thought that the architecture looked kind of, dry in like a South Italy way. But as you will see soon, that ended up being wrong. And then I'll show the architecture of the two places compared and then what it actually was, so you can get a sense of what the Rome coast is more like. But yeah, because of that, we lost a lot of points. Now we have another Columbia. Um, we have, I don't know if you can see any yellow plates. Maybe not actually, but I mean, there's like Columbia poles. The Pare sign lets you know it's not Mexico. Mexico has an alto sign for their stop sign. Um, and yeah, I was just looking around trying to catch a vibe. Um, and I guess I was looking mostly at, well, firstly, I noticed that it's flat, which means it's probably going to be somewhere in north of Colombia, unless it's east of the Andes Mountains, but it doesn't really look like that. Um, and the other thing I was looking at was vegetation. It just seemed to be like generally northern vegetation, but it didn't seem all too dry, so I wasn't going super north. Um, but yeah, I was just kind of clicking around here, and then I'll just cut to the end where it ended up being because it was an interesting area. But yeah, I'm gonna lose a lot of points. You will see. So yeah, a much stronger guess by him. If I had to guess, he probably sensed that the vegetation was a little more inland as he goes a lot closer just to the southern part of the country. And yeah, good play by him. Next up, we're back to South America, and I'm on 47 health, and it's Uruguay. And Uruguay is really not a very crazy region guessing country. I got kind of lucky on the last one, so I just end up sending middle here. And luckily, it is enough for me to withstand the threatening Maltese. I'm a little bit closer, so I do not die. And now, finally, the last round of the video. I won't say whether or not I win or lose, but you'll probably figure it out as I explain the clues and you see where I go. Um, so yeah, I was just looking around. It's Peru, and yeah, I was just focused on looking at this. It said Molino, which is kind of just like a town, I think in Spanish, and then something Yanapampa, something like that. I was trying to make it out. At first, I thought it might be a V as that first letter. Then I thought it was a Y, and I don't know. I was really on the fence, and I couldn't tell if it was like Yona or Yana. But yeah, I didn't really make up my mind. I just started scanning, um, and yeah, I think I ended up in Vilcabamba, something like that. Yeah, there it is. I think it was around here that I realized that we have water, as you can see slightly there to our west. So my thought process was the further south you go in Peru, the flatter the terrain gets in general. The more north you go, the more rugged it's going to be. And kind of related to that is the further north you go, the more likely it's going to be that you'll see rivers, that kind of go through like mountain passes. And the further south you go, the more you're going to see lakes because the terrain's going to be low lying. Water will pool up rather than funnel, downwards. Um, so I should have been scanning south. I honestly don't know why I wasn't. I was scanning north. But yeah, I'm just gonna cut to me scanning now, and then we'll review the end of this round. So yeah, he sends, and I'm clueless, so I send, and yeah, it ends up being south at one of those lakes, and you can see the place name CP Yanampampa. That's what it must have said on the building. So yeah, but anyways, that was a great game. So GG's to Saju, and yeah, that'll be it for the episode. Thank you if you made it this far, and yeah, maybe I'll do another.